I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Actually, keep them open because I need you to see this. I need you to see what I see when I look at you. I see possibility. I see strength that hasn't been fully awakened yet. I see dreams that are waiting to be born. But most importantly, I see someone who has the power to build something extraordinary, one day at a time. My name is Muniba Mazari, and they call me the Iron Lady of Pakistan. But let me tell you something, I wasn't born iron. I was forged by fire. I was shaped by storms. I was built day by day, choice by choice, through the darkest moments of my life. And if I can do it, if someone who was told she would never walk again can stand here before you today, then you can do anything you set your mind to. But success isn't about the destination. It's not about the moment you cross the finish line, or the day you achieve your biggest dream. Success is built in the quiet hours when no one is watching. It's built in the early mornings when you don't feel like getting up. It's built in the late nights when you're working on something that matters to you. Success is built day by day, brick by brick, decision by decision. I want to take you back to a moment in my life that changed everything. February 3rd, 2007. I was 21 years old, newly married, and I thought I had my whole life figured out. My husband and I were driving to the airport. I was excited about our trip. Life felt perfect. And then, in a split second, everything changed. Our car fell off a cliff. When I opened my eyes 3 days later in the hospital, the first thing the doctor told me was, "You'll never walk again." Now let me ask you something. When life hits you that hard, when everything you thought was certain becomes uncertain, what do? Do you give up? Do you accept that this is the end of your story? Or do you decide that this is just the beginning of a different story? I chose to see it as a beginning, not because I was brave, not because I was strong, but because I realized something that day. I realized that life doesn't happen to us, we happen to life. Every single day, we get to choose how we respond to whatever comes our way. We get to choose whether we're going to be victims of our circumstances or architects of our destiny. But here's the thing about building success day by day. It's not glamorous. It's not Instagram worthy. It's not something that makes headlines. It happens in the small moments, in the mundane choices, in the daily disciplines that nobody sees, but everybody benefits from. Let me tell you about those early days in the hospital. The doctors and nurses were amazing, but there were moments when I was alone with my thoughts, alone with my fear, alone with the reality of what my life had become. I remember looking at my legs, these legs that had carried me through 21 years of life, and feeling like a stranger in my own body. There was this one nurse, Sister Maria, who came to check on me every morning at 6 a.m. She was this tiny Filipino woman with the biggest heart I'd ever encountered. One morning, I was crying. I was angry. I was asking God why this had happened to me, and she sat down beside my bed and said something I'll never forget. She said, "Beta, yesterday is gone. Tomorrow is not promised, but today is yours. What are you going to do with it?" That question changed my life. What are you going to do with today? Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when things get easier or when you feel more ready or when the timing is perfect. Today, this day. The only day you actually have. I started building my success one day at a time from that hospital bed. Day 1, I learned how to sit up without help. Day 2, I learned how to transfer from the bed to a wheelchair. Day 3, I learned how to navigate the hallway. Each day was a small victory, a tiny step towards something bigger. And you know what? That's exactly how success works in every area of life. Think about the greatest achievements in human history. The Great Wall of China wasn't built in a day. It was built stone by stone, over generations. The pyramids of Egypt weren't constructed overnight. They were built block by block, with workers showing up day after day for decades. Even the mighty oak tree doesn't become mighty in a season. It grows ring by ring, year by year, through sunshine and storms. Your success is no different. Whatever dream you're carrying in your heart right now, whatever goal feels so big it overwhelms you, whatever vision seems impossible from where you're sitting, it's going to be built the same way everything great has ever been built. Day by day. I want you to think about someone you admire. Maybe it's an entrepreneur who built a billion-dollar company. Maybe it's an artist whose work moves people around the world. Maybe it's an athlete who broke world records. Maybe it's your grandmother who raised 7 children while working 2 jobs. Now, here's what I want you to understand about that person. They didn't become extraordinary overnight. They became extraordinary through ordinary days. They became extraordinary by showing up when they didn't feel like it. They became extraordinary by doing the work when no one was watching. They became extraordinary by making the right choice in 1,000 small moments that nobody remembers, but everybody benefits from. Let me share with you the story of a man named Sylvester Stallone. You know him as Rocky, as Rambo, as one of Hollywood's biggest action stars. But what you might not know is that before he became famous, he was so broke that he had to sell his dog for $50 just to buy food. He was rejected by casting directors over 1,400 times. 1,400 times! But he had a script he believed in, a character he knew could inspire people, and every single day he got up and tried again. When he finally got the chance to make Rocky, the studio wanted to buy his script but use a different actor. They offered him hundreds of thousands of dollars, more money than he'd ever seen in his life. But he said no. He believed in himself, in his vision, in the character he had created through all those days of rejection and struggle. He negotiated to play the role himself for much less money, and the rest is history. But here's the key, it wasn't the day Rocky became a hit that made Sylvester Stallone successful. It was all those days before. All those days when he was writing at 4 in the morning. All those days when he was going to auditions and hearing no. All those days when he chose to believe in himself when nobody else did. That's where success was built. In the invisible moments. In the daily discipline. In the choice to keep going when everything looked impossible. I want to tell you about another kind of daily building, the building that happens inside us. After my accident, I had to rebuild not just my physical capabilities, but my entire sense of who I was. See, I had defined myself by what I could do, by how I looked, by other people's expectations of me. When all of that was stripped away, I had to discover who Muniba really was underneath all the external things. This is where the real work of building success happens. On the inside. Every day, we have thoughts that either move us forward or hold us back. Every day we have conversations with ourselves that either empower us or defeat us. Every day, we choose beliefs that either expand our possibilities or limit them. I remember this one particular day about 6 months after my accident. I was in physiotherapy, struggling with an exercise that used to be simple for me. I was getting frustrated, angry, feeling sorry for myself. And I caught myself thinking, I'll never be able to do anything meaningful again. I'll never be able to contribute. I'll never be able to make a difference. But then I stopped myself. I realized that those thoughts were not facts, they were choices. I was choosing to think thoughts that made me weak instead of strong, that made me a victim instead of a victor. So I changed my internal conversation. I started asking different questions. Instead of, why did this happen to me? I started asking, how can I use this experience to help others? Instead of, what can I do anymore? I started asking, what can I do that I've never done before? This is the foundation of building success day by day, taking control of your inner world. Because here's what I've learned in my years of speaking around the world, of working with people from every walk of life. Your external circumstances don't determine your success. Your internal responses to those circumstances do. I've met people who have everything: money, health, opportunities, support, and they're miserable because their inner world is chaos. I've met people who have faced unimaginable challenges, poverty, illness, discrimination, loss, and they're radiating joy and accomplishment because they've built a strong inner foundation day by day. Let me share with you the story of a woman I met in Karachi. Her name was Fatima, and she worked as a house cleaner. She had 3 children and a husband who had left her. She was supporting her family on less than $50 a month. When I first met her, she came up to me after one of my speeches and said, "Sister, your words are beautiful, but what about people like me? How do we build success when we're just trying to survive?" That question stayed with me for weeks. Because she was right. It's easy to talk about building success when you have certain advantages, certain opportunities. But what about when you're starting from zero? What about when every day is a struggle just to get by? 6 months later, I got a call from Fatima. She told me that she had started learning to read and write after our conversation. She was 42 years old and had never been to school, but she decided to build a better future one lesson at a time. She found a night literacy program and went 3 evenings a week after her cleaning work was done. A year later, she called me again. She had not only learned to read and write, but she had started teaching other women in her neighborhood. She was charging a small fee for these classes, and it was helping her income. 2 years later, she had expanded her informal school and was teaching 40 women. She had also learned basic computer skills and started helping people in her community with paperwork and applications. Today, 5 years later, Fatima runs a women's empowerment center that has helped over 300 women in her community learn to read, find jobs, start small businesses. She went from surviving on $50 a month to running a program that impacts hundreds of lives. How did she do it? Day by day, one lesson at a time, one small step after another. Fatima understood something that many people miss. Success isn't about where you start, it's about what you do with where you are. It's about making the decision right now, today, to begin building something better. But let's talk about what it really means to build day by day. It means consistency over intensity. It means showing up even when you don't feel like it. It means doing the small things that don't seem important in the moment, but compound into something powerful over time. I want you to imagine a plane taking off. Did you know that an airplane uses more fuel during takeoff than during the entire rest of its flight? The hardest part is getting off the ground. But once it reaches cruising altitude, it can travel thousands of miles with relatively little effort compared to those first few moments. Building success is exactly the same. The beginning is the hardest part. The first day at the gym is harder than the 100th. The first time you sit down to write is harder than when you've established a daily writing habit. The first day you choose a positive thought over a negative one is harder than when positive thinking becomes your natural pattern. But here's the beautiful thing about building day by day: momentum is real. Every small action you take, every good choice you make, every positive habit you establish makes the next one easier. Success builds on success, even when that success seems tiny and insignificant. Let me tell you about the Japanese concept of Kaizen. It means continuous improvement through small, incremental changes. After World War II, Japan was devastated. Their economy was destroyed, their cities were in ruins, their people were demoralized. But instead of trying to rebuild everything at once, they focused on getting just 1% better every day. 1% better in manufacturing, 1% better in quality, 1% better in efficiency. You know what happened? Japan went from a war-torn country to an economic superpower in just a few decades, not through dramatic overnight changes, but through the compound effect of small, daily improvements. 1% better every day for a year makes you 37 times better. That's not just math, that's the power of building success day by day. I want to tell you about my own journey with art. Before my accident, I had never considered myself artistic. I was focused on other things: my marriage, my social life, conventional ideas of success. But during my recovery, I had a lot of time to think, to reflect, to discover parts of myself I had never explored. One day, a friend brought me some colored pencils and a sketch pad. "Just to pass the time," she said. I remember staring at that blank page for hours. I didn't know what to draw, I didn't think I had any talent, but I made one small mark, then another, then another. That first drawing was terrible, really, truly awful. But it was mine, it was something I had created from nothing, something that hadn't existed before I put pencil to paper. And in that moment, I realized something profound. Every expert was once a beginner. Every master was once a disaster. Every success story started with someone who didn't know what they were doing, but did it anyway. I started drawing every day, not for hours, not creating masterpieces, just 15 or 20 minutes of putting pencil to paper. Some days I drew faces, some days I drew landscapes, some days I just made abstract shapes and colors. But I showed up every day. 6 months later, my drawings were noticeably better. A year later, people started saying I had talent. 2 years later, I had my first art exhibition. Today, my artwork has been displayed in galleries around the world and has sold for thousands of dollars. But it all started with that first terrible drawing, that first small step, that decision to show up one more day. This is what building success day by day really looks like. It's not about being perfect. It's not about having natural talent or special advantages. It's about being consistent. It's about showing up. It's about making the commitment to get a little bit better today than you were yesterday. But let's be honest about something. Building success day by day is hard. Not because the individual actions are difficult, but because it requires something our culture doesn't teach us very well: delayed gratification. We live in a world of instant everything. Instant food, instant communication, instant entertainment, instant results. But success doesn't work that way. Success requires patience. Success requires faith. Success requires the ability to work today for benefits you won't see for months or even years. I remember reading about a study done with children and marshmallows. The researchers put children in a room with one marshmallow on a table. They told each child, "You can eat this marshmallow now, or if you wait 15 minutes, I'll give you 2 marshmallows." Then they left the room and watched what happened. Some children ate the marshmallow immediately. Others waited and got the bigger reward. The researchers followed these children for decades, and guess what they found? The children who were able to delay gratification, who could wait for the bigger reward, had higher SAT scores, lower rates of obesity, lower rates of drug use, and higher levels of success in their careers and relationships. The ability to do what's right today for benefits you'll receive tomorrow is one of the strongest predictors of success in life. And this is a skill you can develop. Every day, in small ways, you can practice delayed gratification. You can choose the salad instead of the burger. You can go to the gym instead of watching TV. You can read a book instead of scrolling social media. You can have a difficult but necessary conversation instead of avoiding it. Each of these choices might seem small in the moment, but they're building something powerful inside you. The mental muscle of self-discipline, the confidence that comes from keeping promises to yourself, the momentum that comes from consistent action toward your goals. Let me tell you about a young man named Ahmed I met in Lahore. He was working as a taxi driver, barely making ends meet. He had dreams of starting his own business, but he felt trapped by his circumstances. He came to me after a speech and said, "Sister Muniba, I want to change my life, but I don't have money to start a business. I don't have connections, I don't have education, where do I even begin?" I asked him one simple question. What's one thing you could do today, just today, to move one step closer to your dream? He thought for a moment and said, "I could save 10 rupees from my daily earnings and put it aside for my business fund." 10 rupees. That's less than 10 cents. But I told him to start there. Build your business fund 10 rupees at a time, I said, and every day, learn one new thing about running a business. Ahmed looked at me like I was crazy. How was 10 rupees a day going to make any difference? How was learning one small thing each day going to help him start a business? But he decided to try. Every day Ahmed saved 10 rupees. Every day, he asked one of his customers, who was a business owner, one question about how they ran their business. Every day, he watched one video on YouTube about entrepreneurship. Every day, he wrote down one idea for a business he could start. After 6 months, Ahmed had saved 1800 rupees and filled a notebook with business ideas and lessons. After a year, he had enough money to buy a small cart to sell tea and snacks outside the university. He continued driving his taxi, but started the tea business in his spare time. 2 years later, Ahmed had 3 tea carts and had hired 2 employees. 3 years later, he had opened a small restaurant. Today, 5 years later, Ahmed owns a chain of 5 restaurants and employs over 30 people. He went from saving 10 rupees a day to generating thousands of rupees in daily profit. But here's the most important part of Ahmed's story. It wasn't the 10 rupees that made the difference. It was the daily habit of progress. It was the commitment to getting 1% better every day. It was the understanding that success is built through consistency, not intensity. This is what I mean when I say build your success day by day. It's not about making massive changes that you can't sustain. It's about making small changes that compound over time. It's about understanding that the power isn't in any single day. The power is in the accumulation of days. But let me address something that stops many people from building success day by day: perfectionism. We think that if we can't do something perfectly, we shouldn't do it at all. We think that if we can't make dramatic progress immediately, then we're failing. This perfectionist mindset kills more dreams than lack of talent ever will. I want to tell you about my experience learning to paint with my mouth. Yes, you heard that right. I paint with my mouth. After my accident, I lost the use of my hands for detailed work. But I still wanted to create art. So I learned to hold a brush in my mouth and paint that way. The first time I tried to paint with my mouth, it was a disaster. The brush kept slipping. The paint went everywhere except where I wanted it to go. I was frustrated, embarrassed, ready to give up. But then I remembered something my physiotherapist had told me: progress, not perfection. So I tried again the next day, and the next, and the next. Each day I got a tiny bit better. Each day, I had slightly more control. Each day, the painting looked a little less like a child had made it. Not because I was naturally talented at mouth painting. Nobody is naturally talented at that. But because I was willing to be bad at something long enough to eventually become good at it. Today, my mouth paintings have been featured in international exhibitions. People are amazed by the technique, by the beauty of the work. But they don't see the hundreds of terrible paintings that came before the good ones. They don't see the daily practice, the daily commitment to improvement, the daily choice to continue even when progress seemed impossible. This is what building success day by day requires: the willingness to be a beginner, the courage to be imperfect, the patience to trust the process, even when you can't see the results yet. Let me share with you 5 principles that I've learned about building success day by day. These aren't just theories, these are principles I've lived, principles I've tested through the hardest seasons of my life. The first principle is this: start where you are, with what you have. You don't need perfect circumstances to begin building success. You don't need more time, more money, more support, more anything. You need to start with whatever you have, wherever you are, right now. I think about my early days after the accident. I didn't have full use of my body. I didn't have financial independence. I didn't have confidence in my abilities. I didn't have a clear vision of what my future could look like. But I had something I had today. I had this moment. I had the ability to make one small choice that could move me forward, instead of backward. That's all any of us really have. We have this moment, this day, this opportunity to choose progress over stagnation. We don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. We just need to take the first step, then the second, then the third. The second principle is consistency beats intensity. It's better to do a little bit every day than to do a lot occasionally. It's better to read for 15 minutes every day than to read for 5 hours once a month. It's better to exercise for 20 minutes daily than to work out for 3 hours once a week. It's better to save a small amount every day than to save a large amount sporadically. Why? Because consistency builds habits, and habits run your life. The person you become is determined by what you do consistently, not what you do occasionally. Every repeated action is a vote for the type of person you want to become. The third principle is focus on systems, not goals. Goals are important, they give you direction. But systems are what actually create results. If you want to lose weight, don't just focus on the goal of losing 20 pounds. Focus on the system of eating healthy meals and exercising regularly. If you want to build a business, don't just focus on the goal of making $1 million. Focus on the system of providing value to customers and improving your products or services every day. Goals are what you want to achieve. Systems are what you do to achieve them. And here's the beautiful thing about systems: they work whether you feel motivated or not. They work on good days and bad days. They work when you're inspired and when you're not. The fourth principle is embrace the compound effect. Small actions seem insignificant in the moment, but they compound over time into extraordinary results. Reading 1 page a day doesn't seem like much, but it's a book every month, 12 books every year. Saving $1 a day doesn't seem significant, but it's $365 a year, $3,650 in 10 years, plus interest. But the compound effect works in both directions. Small negative actions also compound over time. Eating one unhealthy meal doesn't make you unhealthy, but eating unhealthy meals consistently does. Missing one workout doesn't make you out of shape, but missing workouts consistently does. One negative thought doesn't determine your mindset, but thinking negative thoughts consistently does. This is why every day matters. This is why every choice counts. This is why building success day by day is so powerful, because small choices, repeated consistently, create your life. The fifth principle is progress over perfection. You don't have to be perfect to make progress. You don't have to have it all figured out to get started. You don't have to be ready to begin. Perfect is the enemy of good, and good is the enemy of done. I see so many people who never start because they're waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect circumstances. But perfection is a luxury you can't afford when you're building success. What you can afford is progress, messy, imperfect, sometimes inconsistent progress, but progress nonetheless. Now, let me talk about something that's crucial to building success day by day: dealing with setbacks. Because here's the truth: you're going to have bad days. You're going to face obstacles. You're going to experience failure. The question isn't whether these things will happen. The question is how you'll respond when they do. I remember a particularly difficult period about 2 years after my accident. I had been making good progress in my recovery, building my confidence, starting to believe in my ability to create a meaningful life, despite my circumstances. Then I got an infection that put me back in the hospital for 3 weeks. All the progress I had made seemed to evaporate. I felt like I was starting over from zero. Lying in that hospital bed, I had a choice. I could see this setback as evidence that I was fooling myself, that my dreams were unrealistic, that I should just accept a limited life. Or I could see it as a temporary detour, not a permanent destination. I chose to see it as a detour. And you know what I learned during those 3 weeks? I learned that setbacks don't erase progress, they test it. All the mental strength I had built day by day over the previous 2 years was still there. All the habits I had developed were still available to me. All the knowledge I had gained was still in my mind. The setback was real, but it was temporary. This is what building success day by day gives you: resilience. When you know that your success isn't dependent on any single day, any single outcome, any single circumstance, you become unstoppable. When you know that you can always start again tomorrow, that you can always make a different choice in the next moment, you become unbreakable. But resilience isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. Every day you choose to get back up after being knocked down, you're building resilience. Every day you choose hope over despair, you're building resilience. Every day you choose action over inaction despite fear or doubt, you're building resilience. Let me tell you about a concept I learned from a Japanese proverb: fall down 7 times, stand up 8. This isn't just about physical falling and standing, it's about life. It's about the inevitable challenges, failures, and setbacks that everyone faces. The difference between people who build success and people who don't isn't that successful people never fall. It's that they always get back up one more time than they fall down. I want to share with you the story of a woman named Oprah Winfrey. Today, she's one of the most successful and influential people in the world. But her story of building success day by day began in circumstances that would have justified giving up on any dreams at all. Oprah was born into poverty to a teenage single mother. She was sexually abused by family members. She ran away from home at 13. She became pregnant at 14 and lost the baby. She was told she was too emotional for television. She was fired from her first television job for getting too emotionally invested in her stories. But Oprah understood something powerful about building success day by day. She understood that where you start doesn't determine where you finish. She understood that every day is a new opportunity to choose a different story for your life. Every day, Oprah chose to improve herself. She read books voraciously, not occasionally, not when she felt like it, but every single day. She worked on her communication skills every single day. She practiced being genuinely interested in other people every single day. She chose compassion over bitterness every single day, even though she had every reason to be bitter. The result: Oprah became not just successful, but successful in a way that has impacted millions of people around the world. Her daily choices to grow, to learn, to serve others compound over decades into a legacy that will outlive her. But here's what I want you to understand about Oprah's story, about Ahmed's story, about my story, about any story of success built day by day. It's not about the dramatic moments. It's not about the breakthrough days or the life-changing events. It's about the ordinary days in between. It's about the days when nothing special happened, except that someone chose to do the right thing, the hard thing, the thing that moved them one step closer to who they wanted to become. I want to talk about something else that's essential to building success day by day: the people you surround yourself with. Jim Rohn famously said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." This isn't just a nice quote. It's a fundamental truth about human nature. We become like the people we spend time with. Their attitudes influence our attitudes. Their habits influence our habits. Their beliefs about what's possible influence our beliefs about what's possible. This is why it's crucial to be intentional about your relationships as you're building success day by day. After my accident, I had to evaluate the people in my life. Some people saw me as broken, as someone to pity, as someone whose best days were behind her. Others saw me as someone with untapped potential, as someone who could inspire others, as someone whose story was just beginning. I made a difficult but necessary decision. I started spending less time with people who saw me as a victim, and more time with people who saw me as a victor. I started surrounding myself with people who were also building something, who were also growing, who were also committed to becoming better versions of themselves day by day. This doesn't mean you abandon people who are going through difficult times. It means you're careful about whose energy you absorb, whose attitudes you adopt, whose vision of what's possible becomes your vision of what's possible. Look at the 5 people you spend the most time with. Are they building something, or are they just existing? Are they growing, or are they stagnant? Are they positive influences or negative influences? Are they people who encourage your dreams or people who diminish them? If you want to build success day by day, you need to surround yourself with people who are also building, who understand the value of daily discipline, who support your growth even when they don't understand your vision. But sometimes, you might find yourself in an environment where such people are hard to find. This was my situation for a while after my accident. I lived in a small community where not many people shared my vision for what was possible. So I had to create my own community through books, through online content, through seeking out mentors and role models, even if I couldn't meet them in person. Today, with technology, it's easier than ever to surround yourself with positive influences. You can listen to podcasts by successful people while you're commuting. You can read books by people who have built what you want to build. You can follow social media accounts that inspire and educate rather than distract and discourage. But here's something important to remember as you're building success day by day. You don't just want to receive inspiration and knowledge, you also want to give it. One of the fastest ways to accelerate your own growth is to help others with theirs. I started sharing my story and the lessons I was learning long before I felt qualified to do so. I wasn't a successful speaker yet. I wasn't financially